Welcome to Babblecom 5. Well, hello there. So, a couple of days ago, I pointed my mobile phone at a TV screen and did some recording. I can't really use that video, as it turns out, because, as I rather suspected, Warner Brothers weren't very happy with me. But that's okay. I had a plan B, which is this video. Now, what I'm going to do is just... If you're not familiar with Babylon 5 and its history, don't panic. It's not really about that. This is more of a sort of a technical interest kind of video. So if you don't like that sort of thing, turn away now. So, back in the day, I got Babylon 5 on DVD, which was the only available format. Well, no, rewind. You could get it on VHS as well, because Babylon 5 is that old now. It's a 30-year-old series, and it started being released on video. But they then released, a little while later actually, a DVD compendium of all 5 seasons as separate seasons, which was a good release in that it came with a number of extras. It came in a nice package like this, in which all the various CDs were contained. Mine is a little bit the worse for wear now because of its age, but it's there. The discs were, colourful, but nicely presented. All the seasons were sort of colour-coded. And, it was good. It was good. It had these rather nice little sort of brochures in the inside packaging. They have signs and portents, the first season name for Babylon 5. And a little sort of breakdown of the various episodes and a little bit of a sort of synopsis for each of the episodes and the various scenes in it. Good. There is a catch though. And those of you familiar with Babylon 5 will probably already know what I'm about to talk about, but I want to explore the differences between the DVD that we used to have and the Blu Ray that we now have. So, the difficulty that Babylon 5 had is that it was born in an era of 4:3 ratio TV. What that means is that TVs back then were basically square. They were square. And Babylon 5 was using a lot of CGI and pure CGI shots, which had never been a thing before in TV. So rather than having the models, it was using CGI to produce its space shots, and it was using some CGI in the backgrounds of its people shots. So the interior of the Babylon 5 station, for the most part, was represented by CGI, but you had people superimposed onto it. Now, widescreen for CGI purposes meant more rendering time in those days. It would have been a significant overhead for the series. So what they very sensibly did was record CGI, render the CGI in 4:3. Now, skip ahead a few decades, and lo and behold, we all watch TV video in widescreen. Widescreen is not 4:3. Completely different ratios. So, they didn't have widescreen renders. And although I've seen fan-made stuff, the fan-made stuff obviously, has been done out of love. And the real problem with trying to re-render stuff is that the composite shots, where you have people and CGI, are much trickier. Now, maybe you could do it with AI these days, it's possible. But what we have as the latest version of Babylon 5, the cleanest version of Babylon 5, is this. This is the Babylon 5 Blu Ray, the complete series. All of Babylon 5 in one handy package, ladies and gentlemen. And ironically, the handy package uses the DVD imagery from the DVD box sets on the back of it, because it's more colourful and prettier than the Blu Ray version. And the Blu Ray version does not have the extras that the DVD version took the time to add in because it came out a little bit after the series. And as you can see, absolutely no thought has been given to the covers of the Babylon 5 Blu Ray edition Blu-rays in terms of their artwork, because there ain't any, they're all blue. So, okay. So, one of the questions this video is asking, I suppose, is this therefore an El Cheapo budget release of Babylon 5 just to rake in the cash? Not entirely, no. So, whilst I'm talking, I'm going to put up some stills of comparisons that I've done between the Blu-ray and the DVD versions of Babylon 5. So if you are an owner of the Babylon 5 DVDs, this might give you an idea as to whether or not you want to fork out for the Blu-rays in addition, which I believe at the time of recording, or at least at the time that I bought this and was then told about it, it was actually cheapest to get them off the Warner Brothers website as opposed to just going out and physically getting them. But I actually chose to go out and physically get them. I walked to HMV in the United Kingdom. I bought a physical set of Blu-rays that I just showed you. Do you know why? Because that's what I would have done at the time when I bought the original DVDs. Because I'm old school like that. And I just thought it would be cool to support a physical purveyor of media in this day and age. Anyway, I digress. So, what you might ask is the difference between a DVD and a Blu-ray edition of Babylon 5. And the short answer is, technically speaking, I'm not that well up on it. So what I did was I just took my mobile phone and I played a little bit of a DVD and I played a little bit of a Blu-ray and I put them on my big screen telly. And I then put those videos into a video editor and I took some still frames from it. I tried to do a video. It probably will never surface because I think Warner Bros. Will object to it, because I used quite a long stretch of both for comparison so I could actually sort of get a decent look. But as I say, I will throw up at points during this video some direct comparisons between the two, because that helped me to sort of frame my thinking of what they actually look like. And if I look away from the camera now, it's because I'm going to pull up some of those images and just sort of talk you through it. So the first thing to note, and the first thing that makes it look really sort of odd, is that the Blu-ray chooses to present Babylon 5 as it was shown on a TV screen when it was originally shown, which means you don't get widescreen unless you choose to display it stretched. You will get a 4:3 letterboxed, left blank, right blank, sort of square kind of image in the middle of your TV screen. That's not a mistake. That's what it looked like when it originally came out, and there is a reason for that. And I think this is the reason that they've gone for this particular direction. And I think this is what they did when they did it remastered on iTunes and the like. This is the version that you got there as well. They did that because it allows you to see all of the CGI. Because the infographic that I'm going to throw up here is a clear capture of just how much CGI you lose, because when you compare it to the DVD, because the DVD took a different view of life. The DVD took the view that, hey, hang on a minute, DVD's a widescreen, give or take, and the human scenes of Babylon 5 filmed on the sets were filmed with standard film. Standard film is widescreen by its nature. So, we have that footage. We can present the humans on physical sets as widescreen. For everything else, we can take a little widescreen segment of it out and use that as our widescreen. And that's why on the DVD, the CGI that was full screen on a 4:3 gets sort of letterboxed It's not letterbox in the traditional sense in that you have black borders. You don't. What you get is a zoomed in segment, which is the width that it would have been on a 4:3 screen, but you lose a chunk of the vertical signal. So you get a slightly you get a kind of stretched horizontal, but you lose about, I don't know, a third, maybe a quarter of a sort of a horizontal band, which moves around as well. It could be the top, it could be the bottom, it could be a little bit of both. It depends what the scene is. Somebody somewhere made a choice in doing the sort of the remaster for the Blu-rays and the online HD versions of Babylon 5 to pick and reframe the scenes in that fashion. So because it's 4:3, because it was released in 4:3 originally, all of the important action does tend to happen in the middle of the screen. So that's okay, but if you're used to the DVDs, after all this time, it's a bit of a shock, because I looked at it and I went, whoa, it's crisper, yeah, but you've lost a lot of actual sort of visual imagery, but you do get all the CGI back. So whilst I've been talking there, I will have shown you my first image, which would have been showing you that, it's definitely, there's a clear alignment between the DVD images and the Blu-ray images, but you do lose a big chunk of image on the DVD set, but you do get the advantage that everything else is full screen. So if I go on to the second image that I prepared, you'll see another little quirk of this, which is that the text, which was not uncommon on the DVDs, has actually been swapped out on the Blu-rays. And I think that's because, again, I suspect they've lost the original overlays that they probably combined together to put the text on the images. So on the Blu-ray, the text on the images, there's a slightly different colour, and it's a slightly different sort of positioning to what you see on the DVD. So somebody again has gone to the effort of reproducing the text for the Blu-ray to kind of realign it according to what they did with the CGI, or to put it back onto the original CGI, because again on the DVDs they would have had to do something different. And in fact on the DVDs, I've only really thought of this now, on the DVDs they probably did that and positioned the CGI element of it to preserve the original text. Because if they didn't have the original overlays and they couldn't redo it, they would have had to have moved it up or down, depending on where the text was displayed, to redisplay the text on the DVD and preserve it. So that might explain why some scenes it goes up, some scenes it goes down with CGI, depending, so the cut varies. So that's that quirk. Let's have a look at my third image. Now, this is a sort of a general look at the sort of quality difference, and I'm looking at Midnight on the Firing Line, which is the first season 1 episode, and what I've tried to do is basically get scenes that are at more or less exactly the same time from both the DVD and the Blu-ray to give you a comparison. And you'll see that the DVD version is very sort of, the detail is there, but it's been stretched to fill the screen, which it wasn't really intended to do, and you do lose some of the entirety of the image off the back of that as well. So what you've got left is a rather sort of blurry looking, slightly faded looking CGI image. The Blu-ray doesn't fare hugely differently, but you can see that they've sort of accentuated the red in the shot, and you can see a little bit more detail on the skin of the station, and it's that little bit sharper because of course the base resolution of Blu-ray is higher than that of DVD. So although the Blu-ray is shrunk in its 4:3 as shown on a TV screen, nevertheless you are getting that much more detail crammed into it based upon the remastering work that they've done on it to produce it at Blu-ray resolution. So it's it's not sort of vastly different, but you do get a crispness that is lacking from the DVD version. So again, I like that they've got the full CGI in, but now comes the trade-off. So let me move on to my final image, and this will show you the trade-off. Now, again, I say it's a trade-off, but for those of us who watched it on the TV the first time round, we would actually never have seen this, as shown on the DVD. We only know it exists in the sense that it's on the DVD versions, because, as you'll see from this comparison, this is Garibaldi and Ivanova early doors, but you can see that on the DVD version we see a lot more extras on the left and the right, circled. In the Blu-ray we lose them. So I kind of wonder whether we don't see quite so many other characters, and you might imagine who I'm thinking of here, those of you who have seen the series before. You might imagine that there are certain figures who appear briefly in the background that we might miss because of this cropping. And the sad thing to my mind is that the Blu-ray, being a Blu-ray, could have done something really clever here. So it could have done a mix of both. Maybe, to be fair, I haven't delved massively into the Blu-ray options, so I don't know if you can do some odd mash-up. But somebody, I think, would have to go to the trouble of basically sort of saying, okay, for this frame's only got people in it, so I'm going to do it widescreen. When it's only got CGI in it, I'm going to shrink it back down again. And that might be quite distracting because it would be like a yo-yo all the time. What they would then choose to do with human scenes that have CGI in the background, I'm not sure. I imagine that on the DVD they're quite stretched, and I remember some of them really clanging when I watched the DVD version. So in that sense they would probably work better not being stretched or letterboxed, because you're going to end up letterboxing the people potentially as well to try and preserve the overall ratio. I can't quite wrap my head around that. It's quite warm and it's quite late, and I can't quite wrap my head around what that would actually look like. If you're interested, I can do some more frame grabs from the Blu-ray, and I can think of a few scenes where that would be really obvious, in terms of sort of background CGI being used with people. So it's a really funny one, and I don't know if by this stage you may have already got the Blu-ray. I'm not sure a lot of people jumped out and got it. I was slower than I really expected to be, simply because it was quite a lot of cash for something I already have, and I don't often upgrade stuff. But I thought, I wouldn't be supporting the series if I didn't do it, but also it gives me the opportunity to do this sort of analysis for you. I don't know if the sound is vastly different. That I haven't really sort of sat and listened to. I imagine the sound, again, is probably one of those areas where, unless they've done something really clever with it, I think it was always Dolby, so it may not be vastly different. But fundamentally, I suppose that the Blu-ray is a good HD version of an SD version, which is what we watched if we were first ones. So if that is all we originally saw when we were getting hooked on the series back in the 90s. Strange but true. That's the option they've taken. So I get that, and I think it has been cleaned up a little bit as well. So there are definitely points in the DVD where you see little sort of flecks, like it's been taken off a video cassette, and that may well have happened because the DVDs were copies of copies of copies, and they weren't a great source material. So the Blu-rays, although I think some of the colours looked a little bit saturated just from at first glance, they will be cleaner copies, and they will be the version of the show that we were originally presented with. So that's the plus side. The downside is the Blu-rays are very lacking in extras. The Gathering apparently is on the Blu-rays. I haven't found it yet, but apparently it is on there. But we don't have the commentaries and stuff apparently on the Blu-rays, which is a shame. And I rather like the commentaries. You get JMS commenting on a whole episode in audio and so on. So there was some nice stuff on the DVDs, which for whatever reason they've just not thought to put on the Blu-rays. And they could have done like they could have done prettier pictures on the discs themselves, they just didn't. And obviously that's a choice. So, you know, I mean, the box artwork is kind of okay, you know. And I say it's ironic that it lifts from the DVD box set covers, but I don't know. I'm not quite convinced yet. The Blu-rays might do better with the later seasons that were probably inherently higher quality and filmed with a higher budget and so on. So they might really pop. But again, they're only going to pop to like on about a sort of, you know, half of your screen width, which is a shame. But unless they actually went to the effort of trying to do a proper full-on remaster / re-render, you know, that's what's different between this, I suppose. You know, if for example something like Star Trek Next Gen was filmed with it was entirely filmed with like normal film, it would actually have the advantage here because they don't have to worry about the ratio, because they can just use it all in full film mode. But we wouldn't have got the depth of story from Babylon 5 that we had they been restricted by that in terms of not being able to use CGI, given their budget was much smaller. So it's all really interesting stuff, to yours truly anyway. And I'm sure a lot of die-hard Babylon 5 fans would have heard all this before, so my apologies if this is teaching you to suck eggs. However, you know, this hopefully will give you some idea of what you're actually buying if you go for the Blu-rays, as against the DVD box sets that you might already own. And they are still, you know, you can still get those. Although mine has a funny little quirk. I think it was in season 5 where I sort of missed quite an important intro segment before the credits start. So I'm hoping that's on the Blu-ray, because then now I can probably watch it again. So this at least should be a sort of a fully functional, if you like, version of the series for reference purposes. It's just a bit odd when you're used to the DVDs. But again, you know, the DVDs gave us more than the TV series because they included that extra background element, but they do very heavily crop the CGI, and that's your balancing act here. That's your compromise. That's your decision point, really. Yeah, that's all I wanted to do on this video, really, just to give you an idea of what the crack was between the two different versions, and to see whether or not it's, you know, you want to think about doing an upgrade, basically. I don't know that the Blu-ray sales will affect anything in terms of future Babylon 5. You know, we've had the road home now, so we'll just have to see how it goes, I guess. But if you've never seen the series before and you don't want to chase it around streaming services, buy the Blu-ray. And, you know, you could do a lot worse. If you then find that you really like the series, buy the DVDs as well if you can find them. And there were some kind of like Ultimate Edition sort of, you know, Uber box sets that included all the films and the DVD box sets, and, you know, more or less the entire run. And then all you've got to do is chase down Crusade and the Lost Tales and Legend of the Rangers. Yeah. And on that bombshell, I'm going to leave you there, and I'm going to tinker with this video and put in the bits that I mentioned, and I will probably also just sort of drop in a little bit of the, if I can get away with it, I'll drop in a little bit of this sort of the kind of general view of it on the TV screens. So you can just compare and contrast Blu-ray and DVD. I'll probably do that with the intro screens or something, just so you can kind of see just a little bit, because otherwise I'm probably going to get copyright clobbered for it again. I don't know whether Warner's might take pity on me because I'm trying to do a review in the video that I use to produce these frames. I don't know, it's probably too much footage, but maybe I can do an edited version of it at some point. But, you know, let me know in the comments what you think. If you've bought the Blu-rays, obviously let me know what you think. I'm trying to think if there's anything else Babylon 5-esque. I do have a few books that I might not have had before, and I do need to get reading my books again. So the trains have not been kind to me of late, so I haven't been able to sit and read. But I will try and get onto the second book in the series before much longer. So I think that's it for me for this one. Cheers for now. Do like and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Bye. Now, this is going to be a little bit random, and I hope you can hear me. I'm sure there's a much better technical way to do this, but I thought, why don't I just show you the difference between the DVD editions of Babylon 5 and the Blu Ray edition of Babylon 5 by simple virtue of aiming my camera at a TV screen, because odds are this is the way that you would watch it. So if you want to understand what the difference is, this is probably the best way to see it. And then I'll have a little chat again perhaps about exactly what the difference is in terms of how they're sort of, you know, scanning it and cropping it and all that sort of good stuff. So let's have a look at the first few minutes of Midnight on the Firing Line, and this is the DVD version with a funky face changing menu system. Now this is being put onto an LG TV from an Xbox One, because it suddenly occurred to me that the most sophisticated Blu Ray player I probably have in the house is actually the console's Blu Ray player. So this, of course, is it doing something with the DVD, so we're going to see how that pans out. So the first thing that I noticed about this is full screen. So the first thing I noticed about the Blu-ray is there's no animation. it's a Blu-ray and there's no animation on it compared to the DVD, but I mean, hopefully you can immediately tell on this that this is a, you know, obviously the picture quality is way up, but interestingly, that looks like a, well, it's probably not a painting, but it looks like a freeze frame from almost like a more cartoon version. It's kind of odd. It's not a shot from the series. I think that's what appears on the Blu-ray artwork. So they're just taking a different approach to it, basically. So let's do play all, and then we should get the same sequence that we just watched for a bit, and you'll immediately see a little bit of a difference. So there we are.